Hey guys, Matt Boyer here at the Lincoln County Podcast. Today I get the pleasure of sitting down with Taylor Cox from Community State Bank, and we're going to dive right into it, kind of see what she does and why everyone in Lincoln County needs to know who Taylor is. Hi Taylor, welcome on, and tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do for Community State Bank?
Well, thanks for having me, first of all. Second of all, my main role there is loan officer. So naturally, I lend people money. But you and I have kind of talked a little bit about this. I do a lot more than just that. Business development is another way to look at it. I also help with operations. I do a lot of back office stuff too, as far as additional reports within the bank. So, I kind of get to touch all kinds of different areas within banking. I don't know. I can elaborate more if you want, but...
No, I would definitely say, like we talked beforehand, I see you as, and Community State Bank might not agree with me, but the face of the bank in Troy. I can't tell you, other than the teller line who I deal with when I go in to do stuff, you're the face. You're the one that everyone, and I guarantee a lot of people in our community would say the same thing. They know who Taylor is, and I don't know how you guys track things, but I guarantee the business at that bank has ticked up with your presence in the community, because I can't tell you of ever hearing anything about the damn bank before I met you at Rotary.
Yeah. I don't want to take all the credit. Of course, I can't do everything alone. I have a great support system, whether it's the tellers or even my superiors that are allowing me to be as involved as I am. But when I came on, that was one of the conversations, is how are we going to make more of a presence in the community? And for me, it was like, well, we have to get involved. Like, it's great to write a check. Don't get me wrong. Money speaks for sure. But if we're not consistently hands-on, showing up and showing out, then our impact is going to be very minimal. It's going to be very inconsistent. And so from that regard, it's like, let me plug into Rotary, let me plug into Chamber, let me plug into these networking groups, let's volunteer, let's do trash pickup, let's do career fairs. I mean, you and I are oftentimes at a lot of the same events. So I know that you completely understand where I'm coming from. So like I said, as far as like business development goes, I'd say that is probably a huge part of what I do on behalf of the bank, just trying to promote the bank and get the bank out there. Because like we said, the reality of it is banking is a very sensitive subject, and people aren't going to bank with you unless they like you, know you, and trust you. Well, first they have to know you. In order to do that, you have to get yourself out in the community. And then in order for them to trust you, they have to get to know you. And again, that's where that consistency hits.
I agree with you completely on that. I think that is what has made you so successful with your position there. And it's what drove me to go there, was having someone I could sit down and have a conversation with. I got a very authentic vibe from you. And when we started talking numbers, when I came in and we started looking at taxes and different things, you're extremely knowledgeable of it. But most people don't look at like your position is, we need to do these things, like you just said. Where did that idea or that inspiration come from before you went there? Like what gave you the idea? Why did you want to do it that way instead of just, I'm going to sit here, you guys need to bring me clients?
So I, prior to lending, was doing underwriting, where I was kind of forced to sit behind a desk. And while I loved underwriting, looking at people's financials, that's where all of that background knowledge came from. I'm a people person. I'm thriving if I can build relationships and talk to people. Anybody that knows me will tell you that, including my husband. I go out to get the mail, come back in 2 hours later, I now know everybody on our street type of thing. That's just how I am. And so for me, it was like, okay, I know I have to meet goals as far as production and business that I'm bringing into the bank naturally as a loan officer. But if I can find a way to be more efficient at that and be more authentic and truly be a resource for the community, then that's just going to naturally take off. And so for me, it was sitting down and figuring out, how is my time going to be best spent? And again, it's just plugging into the community, making myself available, and just truly being a resource for anybody in the community, whether it's an individual wanting to start a business, whether it's a business that's already established and wants to grow, or whether it's somebody that just wants to buy a car. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it completely does. And having that drive and understanding yourself to that point, like when I was wanting to grow Boyer Painting in the Lincoln County community, I had to take a step back and look at the community and take that that overhead view of it and say, what's going to work? And I know that with the academy, we'd done a couple things and gotten a good community response from it. And I was like, okay, now I have a larger business, more money coming in. How can I make a bigger impact? And I did it from a marketing standpoint when we first did it. How can I get people talking about me? Let's give back. Then when I gave back and I got involved, it felt good. And I was like, ooh, I like this. You know, the money coming in with the business didn't make me go, ooh, I didn't sit home and go, ooh, we made $40,000 today, or this was our first $140,000 month. I was like, you know what? We were able to do this for this organization. We painted the key. We donated this to a business that had been flooded from a fire, that the sprinkler system had flooded the neighboring businesses. We went in and painted them. That stuff makes me feel good to be in a success position like that. Now, what happened is the community we happen to be in, it paid it forward tenfold to me. The amount of business coming back post-COVID, when everything started opening back up, I could not get people in the school because we had, it was a problem. It was a parking issue. Thank goodness the Troy police loved me, because we had people parked everywhere, double parked. It was ridiculous because everyone knew us. So for you to come in to a banking position and take that same, I guess I would expect that, or society would expect that from a business owner. But from a loan officer to come in and take that position and become the unofficial face of the bank is amazing. And it's such an awesome mindset to have that I find a lot of people don't. A lot of people think, and if whenever I meet anyone that's thinking of opening something in Lincoln County, I tell them, you got to get involved. If you're going to open up out here and you're just going to sit there, you're done. You're done before you open. You may be a little bit successful, but you've got to get involved in the community. What are ways that you can directly say, things that you've done that you directly could say benefited you? New clients came in. I mean, I know I met you at Rotary. What are other things where you've been there that you're able to, or let me say it like this: how are you able to approach the fact that you're a loan officer and talk to people, bring that subject up? Do they bring it up? Do you bring it up?
It kind of depends on the setting. So let me backtrack a little bit.
Go for it.
You kind of identify, for me, it was identifying what are my key skills. I know that I enjoy talking with people. And so for me, naturally, my time isn't going to be spent inside the bank, because we just don't typically have the type of walk-in traffic that's going to naturally generate the business that I would like to see. So I know that I'm probably not going to spend a lot of time in the bank there. It's going to be out. So then it transitions to, if I'm going to be out, how do I utilize my time effectively? Am I just going to stand outside of Walmart and say hi to people and, wait for them to approach me? Or am I going to effectively place myself? And then, like you said, as far as the give back part goes, yes, if I'm going to be working now in the community that I live in and serving that community, I want the best for that community. And I have certain skill sets that I can bring to these groups, just like with Rotary and being the treasurer for Rotary and now a board member for Chamber. So it's effectively placing myself in those positions where I can allow my skill set to thrive. And again, ultimately going back to that being a resource for people. And generally in conversations, if we're at something that's community related, a lot of the times I'll have my logo apparel on, or whatever that looks like, whether it's on behalf of the chamber or the bank. Typically, people aren't going to come up to me and say, oh, hi, what do you do? I see you in the community. But from time to time, people will say, hey, I see you here. I see you here. I know you work for the bank, but what exactly do you do? It's kind of the same thing. I mean, I'm a loan officer, but a lot of times people will kind of come to me for many different things because they just know me associated with the bank. And so when they open up that door, then it's an opportunity for me to pour into them and say, yeah, this is specifically what I do. I lend out money. But then I can elaborate and say what helps me do that effectively is my background in banking. I've been in banking for 10 years. I started part-time as a teller, moved over to the loan side, did loan admin, did loan processing, underwriting, and now lending. So I have a lot of the background in all of the loans that I do. I underwrite them myself. And so I find that when that door is open and I'm able to explain to people the experience that I have a lot of luck with that. And for me, it's not, we just had this conversation. When I started networking, I thought that I had to approach it as, hey, I have something that you can benefit from. And that's not necessarily the case. Some people are very direct like that, and that's kind of what they want. But again, banking is sensitive. People aren't just going to try to move over their accounts and finance everything with you. You have to build up that relationship and maintain that relationship. And so when those opportunities are present, it's, hey, here's kind of briefly what I do, but let's kind of connect more on a personal level. And then through our relationship, you're going to get to see how what I do through the things that I'm doing in the community and just through our friendship and our relationship.
Well, and that's exactly what building that relationship is. I've worked with clients that didn't hire me to paint, but had questions. They went with Jim Bob down the street that was their neighbor, and it didn't work out the best. They asked questions, and it kills me sometimes to answer them, but I do it because it's building that rapport. I've messaged you about things, and you become such an asset to me as a business owner with like, I want to buy a Porsche. I have always wanted one my entire life. I've always been a car guy. I've always had a bunch of cars. I mean, at one point I had like 9 cars. I love cars, but I've always wanted a Porsche, and it was one of those I thought it was out of reach. Now it's become a life goal to have one because I realize there's a real business benefit to it as well. But when I start to look, I sent you a text the other day asking about, I was like, hey, refresh me real quick on where you guys loan at, what you guys kind of do, so I know if that's something I can bring to you guys or not. What am I doing? I personally kind of want a little bit older one, so that's going to require a different financing. Mm-hmm. But I shot you a question. Hey, what is this? You're like, here's where everything lays out. Perfect, great, thank you. That kind of helps guide me. And I think that role for you is so important, and being approachable like that. I can't imagine doing that with a lot of different accounts or services, things that I work with as a business owner, that is such an important thing. And that's a hard thing to develop sometimes, because I think different positions that people have, in order to become very successful, they deal with a lot of different people. So losing that actual connection is really hard, and you do so well to maintain that. And you know, we talked the other day, I'm not going to not touch on this, but you don't have a social media presence other than through the bank. Well, no. And the reason I had to bring it up is part of my coaching thing is people getting out and doing the footwork, doing what you do, like literally building the coaching program to teach people to go out and tell everyone what you do, be involved at events so people see your face, come up with proper product placement by being in the right place at the right time, not by accident, making it happen. Nothing I teach is, well, you need to go on Instagram, you need to do this, you need to use this hashtag, because that's not for all of us. That doesn't work in our community. I know people in and around our community with massive social media followings that have no business. They're not busy. They're not successful. They know how to use the right hashtags, or something they posted went viral, but you and I do things differently. How has that affected you negatively or positively? Most of it's been positive from our conversations, not having a social media, not having a presence where people can go on there to learn about you. They got to meet you.
So I definitely will talk kind of more on the con side initially, just because it's quite evident if you utilize social media for its purposes and get good at how you utilize it, I think it can really help your business from a marketing standpoint. However, I feel like oftentimes what you see is just on the screen.
It's not what you get.
Correct. There's a lack of authenticity, in my opinion, to a certain degree, versus if you and I are sitting down meeting face to face, you're seeing me, you're reading me, you're getting a way better feel on my character, my understanding, and just my overall persona. And then you're going to walk away from that kind of having a better idea of, oh, hey, I really like her. I want to do business with her. And you know what? She's not really my vibe. You know, like her, but not somebody that I maybe want to do business with, as opposed to seeing what I could portray myself as on social media. So it's been challenging for sure, because so often people rely on social media to kind of fact check somebody. I don't have that double check, if you will. So, and also it's an easy way for people to connect. In all the networking groups I'm a part of, hey, like our group on social media and take a picture and tag yourself, and people will like it and they'll see that you're involved and that you have connections, and then naturally they're going to want to do business with you. I'm out of that. I don't have that to rely on. But honestly, too, it has been a struggle, but I enjoy it because the relationships that I've built have really been strengthened by the fact that they are authentic and they're genuine. Because initially when I meet somebody, they're having to ask me detailed questions because there's not some platform that they can go to find answers to these questions. They have to come directly to the source, me.
Yes.
So I've had a lot of success with it, and I have seriously thought about maybe getting a Facebook for business purpose. But at this point, I've done just fine without it. I don't need it. Don't get me wrong. The bank, if you go to the bank Facebook, I'm all over that. Events, pictures, things that we're doing. But for me personally, I've enjoyed it. And I'm able to utilize my time a lot more effectively as well because I'm not stuck trying to schedule a post, trying to connect. You know, it's just another outlet that I would have to dedicate time to. So for me, I feel like I'm able to use my time a lot more efficiently by going and meeting people in face. And generally, the people, when I do that, we have really good conversations and we kind of walk away with a good level of friendship.
Well, you're able to be more present too because you're not worried about the post. Or, you know, I find it some things like people are, and I'm guilty of this. I'm guilty on both sides. I'm guilty in not doing it. And after a while, I realized that my own social media didn't actually have me on it because I always was focused on everyone around me. And been correcting that because you can't, you know, if you're going to use it, you got to use the tool correctly. But it does allow you to be more present instead of constantly, come on, girls, selfie time, you know, that type of crap, or just doing it to get more likes. Like Casey will go to a new networking group. I'll get 20 friend requests. I don't know those people. Don't want to know them. Don't need their product or service. And I haven't met them in person, so I don't like that. I've learned now that I've made all my social media is all business now. The personal page is a business, actual business platform. So I take them on now. But for a while, I was like, I don't want to see what they're doing this weekend. I don't even know who these people are. It becomes such a weird way to live our lives that when you don't have it, you are able to be so much more present and not preoccupied with that. But on the flip side, I had a friend of mine that after high school disappeared, never had social media, living his life, doing everything. All of a sudden he popped up and I ignored it when he friend requested me. I'm like, oh man, so I made a fake account. And it got another one came in, I clicked on it and there's nothing really posted. And then a few things kind of popped up. I'm like, oh, it's cool, man. I'm glad he resurfaced. He messaged me. He's like, hey, let's get together. I'm gonna be back in St. Louis. I'm like, why did you just get social media, man? We're like 35 now. He goes, I couldn't get an apartment. They wouldn't rent to him because he didn't exist on the social levels. He couldn't, the people, they did not believe him. And he goes, I finally had to do it because I kept getting turned down. I was blown away. I'm like, wow, I never would have thought about that because I was like, yeah, it's got to be great. You don't have, because we actually had to have a good talk. Hey, what have you been up to?
Yeah.
So that's amazing. And even when I first met you and you said you didn't have all that stuff, I was like, oh man, it's going to be rough on her. I don't know, because I get so much, all my business, like not all of it's from social media, but I'm able to use it to tell a story. You don't have that tool, so you have to go about it differently, but it's worked great for you. And I would even venture to say it's a great talking point, a good conversation starter when people say, hey, I'm going to hit you up on Facebook. You know what? Actually, I don't have that. I prefer, with my coaching business, I'm not going to do online classes. It's all either in person or going to be over the phone, depending on the demographics of where they're at. I don't want to work with people through YouTube links and things like that. I want to connect, discuss what they need, how I can help them, and sit down and really generate something that's going to be valuable. And that's what you're so good at. And even without social media, you're reachable. I texted you from a cab in London because our cards secured, the fraud alert popped. And I was like, can you fix this? I literally can't pay for my cab ride because we were using debit on everything. And I had something run online which popped the fraud alert because I was in London. And you literally saved our ass. We were literally riding around in a cab waiting for somewhere to stop. And I'm like, thank God Taylor answered my text. I mean, you just don't get that service.
Yeah, and that's what I try to tell people. I mean, pretty much everybody that I do business with has my personal cell phone number. And I was a little weary about that at first, but also I found that a lot of my clients do respect my personal time. Obviously, an emergency situation, that's a little bit different type thing. And I try to make myself as available as I can. And I tell people, look, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I have other obligations other than work. If you do try to contact me and I'm not available immediately, I will get back to you as soon as I can and give you that time. But also, one thing you said too, everybody, hey, let's take a selfie, let's check in here, let's do this. I've noticed that when I am going into a networking meeting, whether it be chamber, what have you, a lot of the times if it is very, very early on into the meeting, there's not a lot of people there, most of the people are just sitting there on their phone. And I'm the one over there like, hey guys, let's talk. Let's introduce ourselves. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Do you have dogs? What's your hobby? And so many times people are in their phone, and I just feel like because of that, there's opportunities that they're missing out on because they're not being present in the current situation, right? We go to these things so that we can meet people, and now you're using your device as kind of the shield in between what you're really there to do type thing.
Well, and they are. A lot of them are using it because they're nervous, or a lot of us are addicted to it.
Yeah.
I'm working on that now with a lot of things I've got going. The notifications and stuff on my phone are insane. So I just flip it over and throw it in the passenger seat, and I try not to look at it. It'll ring. I have it set up to where it'll ring through the car stereo if someone needs me.
And I think, too, like you said, they may be nervous. I've never had that because for me, all I know is to go and shake somebody's hand and introduce myself in person. Yeah. So the whole cold calling, all of that stuff has never scared me by any means because that's just second nature to me at this point.
Oh, for sure. Well, and, I think it becomes a crutch for so many people too. Like, I'll meet people and then I'll see their social and it's like, well, that's not you.
Yeah.
That's not really you. It's edited, it's staged, and I'm guilty of it. I've done stuff, guilty of it to the point like I'll practice different posts or I'll edit things or crop things because of getting a message across. But I've never tried to be someone on there that I'm not like, hey, I'm so outgoing. And then when you meet me, I'm actually very shy. And I think it can be used as a great tool, but it can also cripple you.
Yeah. No, I've seen a lot of people utilize Facebook much to their benefit. And a lot of people have it mastered on how to use it in a way that it's producing more business for them, still in a way that they can be authentic in doing it. But for me, I've been fine without it.
No, and you've done great without it. We've had that conversation.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that that a business owner needs to, if you're dealing with a business owner, like what are some things that you guys offer that would benefit them at the bank? Since you don't have that presence, you can't put that out there. It's all in organic conversation. What are tools that you have that make you beneficial and, Community State Bank and your position there to business owners and things that you do specifically for them? Since this is, a podcast that we're going to have a lot of business owners on, I think that'd be a great topic.
Yeah. So, we are a full service bank, meaning we offer everything from deposits to loans. And I'm going to try to say this in a way that doesn't sound super salesy, but naturally, all of your accounts, business accounts, savings accounts, checking accounts, anything of that nature. And then on the lending side, operating line of credits, I encourage all business owners, especially if you're providing a service to somebody, to have just a general operating line of credit. Because even if you don't need those funds at said time, there may be something that comes up in the future that you're going to need those funds for. And that's something super easy. Secure it with some collateral, have it set aside. When the day comes that you need it, call me, I'll move the money over, and you have access to funds quickly. That has been honestly a big saver for a lot of my clients. I originated a line of credit for a gentleman, and he said, I probably will never use it. He's had opportunity to invest in, other business ventures, and he's utilized that line. So, there's, aside from that, just, investment properties. That's something that everybody's wanting to get involved in. Simple real estate, you buy a house, renovate it, rent it out. That's all stuff that I can help with. Then you get in kind of the bigger stuff, owner-occupied buildings, construction on those from ground up or purchase, renovate. It's hard to sit here and say everything that I can offer because
that's a ton of tools. Yeah, you have a ton of tools at your disposal and a ton of things that business owners need to think of that I think sometimes they forget that their local bank can do that.
Absolutely. And every business is different, right? There's not just a black and white. There's always a lot of gray area. And so for us, it's sitting down and working with the business, figuring out what their true needs are, and then tailoring. My punchline is I provide lending tailored to your needs because that's literally what I do. It works in my favor, right? Because my name's Taylor, but legitimately that is what we do. We're very good about, okay, this is your need. This is what you have that we can work with to fulfill that need. Yeah. And then from there, the relationship starts.
Well, and that's great you said that too on like the investment properties, because that is a hot thing right now. It's one of my biggest goals. I've done the training with some great people, is to get into that. A lot of people probably don't realize that their local bank can help them with that there is positions there. I find too with such a heavy online presence on so many things, sometimes this may just be me, sometimes because of all the stuff you see, you start thinking, oh, I got to go online to do this or online to do that, when you could just meet people. I've always had good luck with just person to person talking, meeting people, telling them in a way that's not salesy of what I do, what my businesses are, and making those connections. And I'll be honest, I think that's why this podcast is going to take off. The video we posted to Hype It Up's had 5,000 views. I have had a huge response from a ton of people, not just businesses looking at it as a way to get their message out, but people in our community that I want to have really good conversations with. I am stoked. If I could flip a switch tomorrow and just record podcasts every day, I could probably record podcasts for the next 6 months. I've had that kind of a turnout, and I've got that many people interested, and I'm in love with it. I am like sick in love with the fact of getting to just sit down and have conversations.
Yeah.
As a kid, I found myself to be shy, but once I started talking, I didn't shut up. What was it like for you as a kid? Were you always very people-y? Were you always very outgoing, walk up, like shake hands, like fearless? And remember, like I've met your little minis, so, and I can guarantee I can tell exactly which one you favors you the most. But what was it like? What were you like as a kid?
I was never shy. I have never met a stranger. I've always been a talker. Like, it's no secret. And so with that, when I had the opportunity to start lending, I knew that was just game on, because I've never had a fear of talking with people and putting myself out there in a way to help people. I have a soft heart. If there's a need, I'm that type of person that's going to fulfill it, which can be dangerous, because in time I find that I've bitten off more than I can chew, and then I kind of have to reset and reevaluate and, okay, let's go back and figure out how I can spend my time effectively. I've always been that way though. And like I said, I've been in many different parts of the bank, and I enjoyed all of them. I've learned so much in all of the positions that I've been in. But the ones where I was behind a desk were just not for me. I'm a people person. I like to engage in conversation. I like to learn and hear about different businesses and things that they're doing to thrive, and things that they need to do differently because they're maybe not thriving, or just plans that they have. And so, I don't know, it was naturally kind of easy for me to be like, okay, I have to go out and meet people. Great. That's what I'm good at. That's what I like to do. I'm that person, if we're standing, at Aldi's or Walmart, by the end of the time that we're done at the checkout line, you're going to know my name. You're going to know how many dogs I have, and vice versa, and then the next time we see each other, I'm going to remember, oh, hey, your name's Linda and you have a cat, and, whatever else. So I don't know. I can't say that I ever really was shy. I don't think I've ever had that trait, which I don't know if that's a good thing, because sometimes I do feel like my energy is a little too much for some people.
Oh, for in this day and age, it's definitely, as a kid, I was always very shy, but as an adult, I'm very comfortable talking to brand new people I've never met before, and I'm very, very comfortable with them. Mm-hmm. But I will find sometimes when I go in on bids with customers, like I'm way more comfortable being there talking to them in their own house than they are talking to someone in their own house. Like I will be like, okay, just shut up and leave now, because I'm just chatting, or I'll see a cool picture. I'm like, hey, it's really a neat thing. Just make it small talk while I'm there. Not trying to be salesy. That's just me. And they'll be like, yeah, it's a picture. So I want the walls gray. Mm-hmm. And do you sand? And so then I flip it back over. Okay, so what we do is we come in, we do X, Y, and Z. Thank you very much. And as I'm walking to my car, I'm like, man, that was such an abrupt leave. But they're probably...
But I think, some people in a role like ours, where you're constantly dealing with people and trying to acquire business from people, I think you have to be able to read the room effectively and know who you're presenting to, and understand your audience, because there are people that are a lot more direct. Like, hey, I just want yes, no answers. If it's not going to work, tell me straightforward. I don't care why, There are also people, though, that they want to sit down and they want to be best friends and know everything there is to know about you. And so I think to effectively build relationships, you have to be able to kind of discern your different personality types. and use that to your advantage.
You got to feel the vibe.
Correct. Yeah.
And I'll try to break that down a lot of times. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And I do that because I know that if we do bid the job, I'm going to have a working relationship with this person, whether it's a $2,000 job or a $200,000 job. And we need to establish a trust and a rapport there. It's different than just being outgoing. It's not the same thing. There's some people who could talk to a tree, but never establish any connection there. You have to be able to establish that. And that's something you've been good at. What you said, you've never been shy, you've never been afraid of that stuff. Do you find that I'll say it this way. I find I have I'm not afraid to fail. I'm not afraid of things like that. I've joked over the years, I'm not afraid of stuff. I'm not afraid to take a business venture and fall flat on my face because I know that I've got all these other tools back here. I can go over and do this. I can do that. I could learn a new business tomorrow and start something if I wanted. Not being cocky, I could. I know how my brain works. Have you always felt like kind of fearless like that? Because to be that outgoing, to take that position and then run with it in the way you have is kind of crazy to think of. I know a lot of loan officers. It's easy to find them. They're behind their glass window at their desk. I tease you all the time. Hey, is your office for rent? Because you're never in the damn thing. You're always out working. Why are you so fearless like that?
That has been an acquired trait. When I started underwriting, which granted, those are two completely different roles, I did have more of a fear in what I was doing. And a lot of that was because when I started underwriting, it was a new role. I didn't have any foundation. That was all things that I learned just from experience and on the job. But then I quickly realized it's kind of one of those things. The more that you learn, the less that you realize you know. Does that make sense?
No. Yeah.
And so then in a
Tons.
way that's kind of humbling. And then you realize that, okay, I don't have to know everything. I'm human. I'm not expected to know everything. If I know everything, that's bad, right? Because then at that point, I'm unteachable. So my mind kind of changed, especially with, the whole lending and trying to build up my portfolio. I'm going to fail. It's inevitable. I'm going to go out and have these aspirations and these goals for myself on, okay, quarter one, these are the marks that I'm going to hit. Quarter one comes, I don't hit those marks. But to me, not hitting those marks isn't necessarily a failure. If I can get at the end of quarter one, I'm using that as an example, and say that I did A, B, and C to execute trying to hit those marks, it still didn't work. At that point, I've done everything I can. So for me, that's not a fail.
No, I completely agree with you.
So my whole mindset on what failure is has changed. And when that changed, I don't know, I did kind of have more of that push of, it's okay. This is how I'm hoping it goes. This is kind of how I'm thinking it's going to go. But if it goes this way, then that's fine because it's not the end of the road. That's not the only other opportunity. I still did this, and this right. So, tomorrow there's going to be another chance to try again. And if it's me doing something, the same thing 10 times, thinking that it's the right approach, after 10 times of trying it, if I'm still getting the same result, then maybe it's, okay, let's reevaluate. Let me ask for my mentor's opinion. Let me ask from somebody else that's seeing me doing it, that they can kind of critique what I'm doing and help me kind of reposition myself to have a different approach.
No, and I completely agree. I had a discussion with someone the other day on failure, and I said, I don't fail. And they said, well, you could. I don't fail. And I was like, I know it sounds so cocky and so arrogant, but I look at failure the way you just said. Okay, I set goals for myself daily. Sometimes I get out of hand. I'm like, okay, in the next hour, I have to have this much content produced, or I have to make these 3 job sites, And I will, say it's a financial goal. We've got, to do this, this, and this to reach that. And I don't quite reach it. I don't see that as a failure as long as I put the work in and put the right things in place. I would see it as a failure if I said, you know what, I'm going to make $100,000 this month. And then I didn't get off my ass and go work to do it. Now, if I say I'm going to make $100,000 this month and I go to work every day, I execute, I paint the houses, I make the customers happy, I teach the classes, and we make $95,000, I don't see it as a failure because we did what we were supposed to do. And there's probably 25 grand billed out that didn't come in yet. So technically we did make it. That's not a failure because I executed on it. If I say, like, my goal this year was to purchase Porsche before the end of the year, I have executed and done the things I needed to do, but other things have popped up that are going to prioritize that car waiting till the spring.
And I think in
It's
some
just that
regards,
easy.
some of those things are inevitable. And so it is more of a measurement of what are you doing to get there versus where are you at?
Exactly. Now, what would you say cause that? Do you think it's, we've talked, you're an athlete. Do you think it's the sports background? I put a lot of mine on martial arts. It's setting goals with tournaments and mastering a kata or learning a new weapon that developed my brain to act like this. I don't think it's something that just happened. Would you say it was sports? Was it a parent or a mentoring figure that like laid stuff out for you? You seem like a lot of things are, you absorb, you digest, and then it comes back. This is how I'm going to do it. So
I mean, a lot of it I could attribute to fitness. I mean, as well as I know, you come up with a fitness goal or fitness plans, you start implementing those, but it's not overnight that you see the results. It's generally a couple months before you really start to see these things that you've been putting into practice come to life. And I've always been in sports, always been, big into health and fitness and that sort of thing. So naturally that process is embedded in my brain. And then I'm fortunate that I do have good mentors within the bank that, I can go to them and say, hey, these are the things that I'm doing. I'm just not feeling great about it. What are your thoughts? You've been in the game for a while. What are you seeing that I could do differently? What advice do you have for me? And with that, it's always very much like, look, you're being too hard on yourself. You're not going to, hit the bullseye every single time. And after hearing that enough, it's kind of like, okay, I am doing the right things. It just isn't happening the way that I would like it to happen. And again, it's those variables that are out of my control. So then it's, okay, what is in my control? And it's just kind of conditioning your brain to think a different way, especially when you are in more of like a leadership role like this, where, you have goals that you have to hit, whether you're a business owner, in my position, a lender. You just kind of retailer the way that you're thinking in order to continue to push to try to get the results that you're wanting to see.
Yeah. And I think the popular term these days is pivot. I hate to use X. I hate to use anything that's like a catchy phrase in that aspect, but you do, like, just because you set a goal, excuse me, and you don't quite obtain it, did you do the right things to get there? Sports, physical fitness, that's all a long game. That's not something I find these days. People come in, not the kids as much, but the parents, like, man, my kid's not like a total badass yet. Yeah, they've been in class 15 minutes, bro. Like, they peed twice and, went to the bathroom, peed twice and stretched. Like,
Yeah.
you got to give me a little bit with them. Well, that one up there is doing great. Yeah, she's been here with me 9 years. It's taken us a little while to get her to that level. She's fallen down a lot. But I find that creates such an unstoppable mindset that not everybody has.
Well, and I think comparison too. I could take myself as a new lender a couple of years ago and say, man, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to be like him, though he's been lending for 20 years, has a portfolio, has clients everywhere. You can't compare yourself because everybody is at a different phase and everybody went through the phase that you're at. So realizing just to kind of relax and trust the journey, there's kind of a piece that comes with that too that gives you that fearlessness.
Well, it's getting the reps in. You can't really compare yourself to anyone else because they're not walking in your shoes. Their goals may not be the same. I tend to critique businesses and not in a negative fashion, just as like interested. I'll see them and I'll be like, okay, that's a brick and mortar storefront. Every time I drive by, it's empty. What are they doing? That's just, what's their stuff look like? Like I like curiosity on like, how do they do it? Because I know I have my businesses. People see all the vans and everything and they're like, oh my God, Matt's probably got so much money, man. I'm always broke. It's always going into this or that, like to grow the business. It's not going into Gucci and Louis Vuitton. It's going back into the businesses. And so I always kind of question that with things, but I think, and it depends on where they're at with their journey. I have friends that want to be entrepreneurs to just simply work for themselves. And it's almost kind of, it supports them. It's a kind of a part-time job, in my opinion. I, on the other hand, want to build a legacy. I want to give my children things that would be amazing that maybe I didn't have. And I want to set an example because we live in a world where there's so many examples online that are set so poorly. Or, a lot of influencers fake photos and private jets they don't really own. Like there's, we pulled up today. I don't know if they're still there, but earlier there was two supercars out front. I could easily take a photo, put it up, and like, yeah, I'll price check in today, knowing that they're not my car. People do that stuff. There's all sorts of videos online where people are flexing, leaning on people's cars. They walk up like, hey, what are you doing on my car? It's good for people to set that example. And I take that to heart. And we've talked before, I find what you do and how you do it is really refreshing because of so many people are so salesy at the networking stuff. It's why I cringe at going to some of them sometimes because it's just ridiculous. It's like, wow, sales pitch. That's why this is why I'm like so just drunk in love with doing this right now and having these really cool conversations. What do you like see in your future though with it? Like I know I already know enough about your personality that I guarantee you got a plan. You're a planner. I'm a planner. I like to know all the details. I know I probably gave you a panic attack when I'm like, nope, we'll just talk about random stuff. Trust me, I already had several people that are coming on that are friends of ours already send me back. They're going to write talking points anyways. I'm like, okay. Some people have to do that. I like to plan stuff, but I can kind of, when it comes to talking, I can float.
Yeah.
What's your plan? Where do you, I don't want to be the cliche, where do you see yourself at 10 years, but like, what do you want to do?
So at this point, I don't know what I don't know, right? Excuse me. So I've had conversations internally. Kind of my long-term goal is to have more of an understanding of how a bank actually operates as far as risk management, asset liabilities. There is, all banks are required to report like their overall financial progress, if you will. That's all public information. For me, with my background, I can kind of dissect through those reports and come up with a pretty good idea of how a bank is doing overall. But I really want to be able to sit down and maybe pull a random bank's financial reports and say, okay, look, this is how this bank is doing. And this is why. If you see this here on the income statement, it's affecting this on the balance sheet. I want to be able to kind of just have a more overall grasp on banks having issues. How do we fix it? What decisions do we need to make that are going to fix that, but also not cause a problem over here? So I don't know if run the bank is the right word. I certainly don't really ever see myself being anybody's boss at this point. That could change. Again, I don't know what I don't know. But I really just want to get more hands-on with, all right, let's keep this bank afloat. Great, we're doing good. Let's grow it. How do we do that effectively? How do we do that utilizing our best resources? How do we do that in a way that's going to continue to be profitable? So, the bank is being very good about investing in me, and I think that there's going to be opportunity for that down the road. I don't know what all that looks like because, again, I don't know what I don't know. And like I said, it's one of those things that the more you learn, you realize how little you know in comparison. So that's kind of where I'm at now. I think I'll probably be lending for quite some time. I haven't quite mastered that yet. Not quite where I want to be as far as all of that goes, but like you said, kind of with my personality, as soon as I feel like I have something under my belt, it's like, all right, what's the next challenge? I want to continue my growth and my knowledge. Learning is power. So the more that I can learn and the more that I can be an asset to my employer, to my community, to my clients, then the better off I am.
So I want to come back to that asset to your employer thing, but I just want to note that on today, the Lincoln County podcast, the idea for tailor-made consulting, Taylor Cox's consulting business, where she goes in, she rips a bank down, she rebuilds their day-to-day operations and shows them how to properly place their finances, their customer service, and their networking, and is like a millionaire, like picking which, McLaren she wants to drive to work, was born today, because that is cool. And that is really neat. And I'm going to go trademark that name real quick before you do that. Go trademark that. But no, I seriously see that's a cool, that's something I'm enjoying with the martial arts school. Is like, I'll talk to my students. What are you guys going to do? Like when they start getting to that age, black belts with me, well, I'm going to do this. No, that's not good. I'm like, what do you mean it's not good? It's what I want to do. I'm like, yeah, I just see you doing this. So, for example, the other day, and I hope this all works out, I got a chance to follow up with Patrick at Epic Construction. I met a kid at the event we were at New Horizons. Gentleman came in, had a blue collared shirt on. I think Joey and you and I were all talking about being really outgoing. I got him hooked up for Pat to mentor him and get him a job. He actually did listen and reach out. And I saw that with him. Joey's seen it. We all seen just the natural people skills. He's like, I just want to be a roofer. Bro, you want to be a roofer? You're a natural salesman. You are so outgoing. You're such a nice kid. And he finally messaged me the other day. And I was like, man, I got a guy who messaged Pat. I'm like, dude, I got this kid. He needs you in his life. Pat's like, dude, tell him, where is he? I want to meet him now. That is like the coolest thing for me. I love that. So kind of, going back to what you do, like being an asset to your employer, that is something that I find is lost these days. It's always, how can my employer help me do everything? And it's like, I try to teach my guys without being a dick that, hey, you guys have to finish the jobs in a profitable manner, keep the customers happy. Like, I do my work to help with that part too. But you guys got to have my back like I have your back. When the customer's mad over something you guys did, I go to bat for you guys and say, this is what happened, this is what happened. I don't go to them and be like, yeah, my employees are all stupid, sorry. Because that makes me look like an ass. Like, oh, you hire a bunch of morons? I don't ever do that. I never did that when I managed Jiffy Lubes. I never just went in and blamed my assistant manager. I would take the blame and reassess and fix it. But that is such a lost characteristic of you saying you want to be an asset to your boss. I mean, that is until TaylorMade Consulting launches.
That's maybe a little bit of a stretch, but
Nah, I'm telling you, it's
I
gonna
guess
happen.
nothing's impossible.
I'm going to be pushing you on that one.
So for me, if I can lay my head down at night knowing that I did everything to the best of my abilities, that's success, regardless of what that looks like, regardless of where I'm at financially, what job title I hold. For me, that's success. And I don't know if that's just a personal preference, a personal trait that has just kind of gotten lost. But that's kind of where I hang my hat up on. And I have been fortunate that with that mindset, I've had a lot of success and I've seen it. And for me, it's just been, I don't know how to explain it. I do agree with you that that's not the mindset of people. The mindset is, man, I want to own my own business so I can make the rules and call the shots and do all the things. And while there are
Without
people that
all
are,
the work.
yes, and there are people that are very good and meant to do that, but then there's also people that are meant to work for other people. And I think that's okay. Not everybody has to own their own business. You can do just fine working for somebody else.
Yes.
And, a lot of the time the employer too has to recognize the employee that they have. But right now, the day and age that we're in, I think employers, when they do have a valuable employee, I think they are recognizing that. And I think that they are making certain concessions to maintain said employees. I don't know how to teach the mindset that I have. I don't know how to tell people other than that is your integrity. That is your pride. So value that, because at the end of the day, that is what makes you as a whole person. That's part of who you are. I can go to work and slack off and not do anything, but also at the end of the day, that's going to end up reflecting on my progress. The better I do, the more money I make, right? And that's true with any position, regardless of what position you're in. And then also, if you're putting yourself out there and you're showing that you're willing to help with different projects that maybe aren't in your wheelhouse, or you're willing to learn new things, that's going to speak volumes. And if you have that willingness, your employer is going to be willing to invest in you and to help you grow, because they're going to see potential in you. They're going to see, a desire and a drive, ambition. So, it's been nice that I've been able to practice that and then see the benefits of it. And it's just like with anything, when something works, you keep doing it.
Yeah.
For me, it's continued
Rinse
to
and
work.
repeat.
So therefore, I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And now I'm in a position where, I get to be involved in the community. It's not just sitting in the office all the time. And I do have a lot of privileges that I'm fortunate to have, that my employer has given me. And also with that, though, I want to definitely talk about customer service, because that's kind of another area that I feel like is, completely forgot about or non-existent. Customer service is huge. And I know that you know that, because we've done things outside
You've come
of
out
this.
and talked to the painters for me. It is such a. I think the only reason people are motivated about any customer service anymore is they're worried about the bad review. And at the end of the day, though, I think in an up economy, people are like, screw it. I'm not worried about it. But it is part of what everybody does. And this is something like these hardcore sales guys are always like, sales is everything everywhere you go. And but it really is sales and customer service. I think of them as the same thing. If you're not providing the customer all the details to properly sell them on a product, on yourself, your business, your product, your loans, whatever it is, you're not giving them good customer service. I've dealt with people before that were like, I'm not a real salesy person. They give you a little bit of this and that. And then, like, let's say for a car example, then I find out like, oh, I could have paid this to get extra stuff done when I bought a new car. But they were playing the I'm not a big salesperson card. And this is years ago. I looked at a Cobra Mustang. And they were playing, oh, we're just all good friends out here type card. And it was like, well, I don't want that. I want that sales service. But sales and customer service are everything. No matter what you do. We're painters. It's customer service. I'm training kids at the school, and I have to teach my black belts that we don't want to go to the parent and rag them out after class about what a turd their kid was tonight if they were acting up. We want to be like, you know what, hey, it's no problem. Because parents go, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'd be like, no, it's great. They're fine. This is what we're here for, because that's my job. I'm there to teach them like that. I'm not there to go gripe at the parent, because guess what? The preschool teacher and the daycare probably already did it that day. That kid wasn't just having a rough day with me. Customer service. And that's something that you, with what you do, I feel of everything you do is customer service. All the times you help me, but the importance of it is just astronomical. Like at what point did you really realize that importance?
Well, I mean, starting out in banking as a teller, naturally I'm face to face with the customers. And so what do? I provide customer service. So I think I figured out very early on that in order to continue to acquire whatever business it is that you want, you have to have good customer service. And depending on what role you're in, that's going to look differently. And I think where I'm at now, a lot of my customer service skills have just developed through dealing with people. For instance, I have people that will come to me, that will text me about things that I don't know anything about. It's on the operation side. That's not really my wheelhouse. And I will flat out tell them, hey, look, I don't have the answer to that right now. I'm out of the bank. Give me about 2 hours. I'll get back with you if that's okay. And they're like, yeah, amazing. No problem, and then I'm not the best resource for that. However, I can still provide them with good customer service and get them the answer that they need, even though I don't have that answer. And so one thing that I think is huge is recognizing that we don't have to know everything, and it's okay to be honest and say that I don't know. But it doesn't stop there. It's in the follow-up. A lot of customer service, good customer service, comes from that, okay, here's the issue. How are we going to handle it? Well, if I don't know, I'm going to get you in touch with somebody that can help you and answer whatever question it is that you have. And then naturally with what I do, if I'm not providing good customer service, if I have somebody that's reaching out and has questions about their loans and I'm just blowing them off and I'm not there, well, guess what? There's tons of banks, tons of other loan officers. They're going to go find somebody new to establish a relationship with. So if I'm not continuing to make myself present and be there to help with whatever your need is, however that looks like, I don't have a client.
Well, you can't just offer the customer service to close the deal. You have to offer the follow-up for the deals later.
Well, and I don't call my loan closings, for me, they're not closings, they're a commitment, right? Because Perfect. That's when we are under contract, for lack of a better word. And through the life of the loan, if not longer, we're going to be dealing with each other. Whether it's when somebody comes in to make a payment, whether it's when they call because they're not understanding how their payment was applied, whether, they're calling because they want to look to refinance, whatever that looks like, we're going to be continuing to deal with each other. And so I heard that in one of my networking groups that, yeah, it's, commitment. I'm like, that's literally what my closings are. They're not a closing, it's a commitment. Because up until that point, if we've never had any business, we really don't have anything that is committing us to each other. And at that point, we do going forward until, that relationship is done with, which generally it isn't, especially when it comes to the business owners, because, you're a business owner. You start one business and then you want to get into other business ventures. And so it just grows from there, typically, is what we see. And I think for me, that's why I really enjoy working on more of the business side of things, because that relationship is continuous, it's constant. And, you really get to develop and grow with your business owners.
Oh, for sure. And like for us with painting, nobody lives in their house for 100 years. So if I follow up with that customer and continue to build that rapport with them, I'm going to paint their next house and their next one. And that's one thing that's always killed me is when we really did explode and get busy is when I had to turn people down because of time restraints. Well, I can't, hey, you guys are painting 2 houses for me. I really need this 3rd one painted, but I need it done next week. I'm sorry, we're booked out. Well, is there anything you can do? And there literally was nothing I could do other than risk a relationship with a current customer to help one that really didn't give me the proper time. And that's something I think you've been good about too, is like after we sat down, initially did everything, we discussed it, you helped me walk through it. I had one hiccup after another, which is the other thing I think people forget about business too. They think everything's just smooth. They don't realize how many times you have to redirect or address a problem you didn't see coming. We still maintained that relationship there to where then it did grow into a line of credit, did grow into me moving the accounts. It's grown into so much more that I want to get into other things down the road, and you will be the first one I come to. And I know I'm not your only client that says that. You've probably got clients that make a lot more money than me that feel the same way about you. And that's what makes you and your position such a great asset that I think people forget in business, that when they're going to go into business, you got to have, I think everybody thinks they got their t-shirt guy, their logo guy, their media guy, but they forget they got to have that relationship with their banker. They've got to have those because shit happens. But before we wrap up, this has been a great conversation. I love having these. I want to kind of go back to 2023 and talk about Career Day at Quiver Park Elementary 2023. And how did it feel being the second place presenter that day?
Oh my goodness.
I
think that's subject to opinion though, Matt.
I don't know if I still had the text messages about the opinion your daughters had on my amazing Career Day martial arts performance.
Well, my daughters are my mini, so in spite of me, of course, they're going to pick you over me for sure.
Jocelyn does that to Casey on stuff at the house, and she will just dig her nails in if she can tell that it's rubbing mom wrong. And I will kick her chair. I'll be like, drop it.
That is the relationship of a mother and a daughter.
I've seen
sure.
you and the girls too many times to know that. I just remember I just laughed so hard that day you called me. You're like, oh no, nope. Your karate was just so cool.
Yes. Yeah. No, they definitely talked about that. But no, I mean, that stuff is all part of it, I mean, just the career fair stuff.
It's all part of what you guys do, what all of us do, going out there and doing that and sharing what we do.
But I think too, what sets us apart is you have people that will do that out of obligation, out of trying to get the business. But then you also have people that, yeah, naturally, you're going to get your name out there, you're going to get known for that type of thing, but you're doing it out of the genuine kindness of your heart.
Well, and the fact you enjoy it.
Yeah, the Career Day.
Yeah,
the kids are so much fun.
Yes.
I mean, the questions that they ask. So one of them was like, "Okay, how do you rob a bank?"
Yeah,
and I'm like, "That's not a question that I'm going to answer." So it's always very entertaining. And then even doing the interviews at New Horizons and working with still kids, but a different type of kid. Older, and that sort of thing. It's all very intriguing, and I think it's a great way, and I'm so thankful that we are in Lincoln County where those opportunities are endless. I mean, we have so many non-for-profits, we have so many good community organizations that need our help as business owners and business leaders and business individuals, that I think that's a great resource for us to be able to utilize our skills and the support that we can bring from our businesses to help those organizations thrive in order to make Lincoln County better as a whole.
Well, and you learn so much about them. When I first went to New Horizons, I was not expecting what I received. Mm-hmm. The kids were receptive. They wanted help. They wanted to reach out. They weren't just there because they were against learning or anything like that. They were there for multiple reasons, and they were very receptive if you talk to them like a human being. And I will watch people that go to those with us that are just there because the boss sent them over and they ding, ding, ding through it with the people and then ship them on. And it's sad because I want to connect with the kids and talk to them, maybe give them some of that inspiration. So
yeah, and I think to kind of end on what you just said, talking to them like they're human, I think regardless of what your position is in the community, in the business, it's so crucial to just stay humble and just
Yes.
treat people with respect. I mean, at the end of the day, I think that's how our businesses are going to continue to thrive. Our community is going to continue to thrive. If we can just maintain that understanding of, hey, look, you're a human, you have a need, I'm a human, I have needs. Let's figure out how we can collaborate and work together, and everybody benefits.
For sure. Well, thank you guys today. As I wrap up here, Taylor Cox for joining us on the Lincoln County Podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. I love these connections and these talks. We'll catch you next time.